Hello everyone, thank you very much for coming down to see us today. As you may have noticed, we are team CurlFriend, and with us today we have Charlie, Jake, Natalie, myself Mike, and we also had a fellow called Joe who unfortunately can't be with us here today. So, as you may have guessed, CurlFriend is a workout planning app. The idea being that users add exercises into a workout and get an immediate visual representation of what muscles are worked during their workout. The app relies on crowdsourced user exercise data, so every user can add exercises to the database. So, first things first, we're going to go on a walkthrough through the app. So, this is the main screen. If you don't have an account on our app, you can create a new one. But for today, we're just going to use my account, which has gone through Facebook authentication. So this is the main selling point of our app. This is a 3D rendered model with all the major muscle groups of the human body on it. The model follows a traffic light system. So as the color changes from green to red, it measures the intensity of a workout on that particular muscle group. So, first things first, we're going to create a new exercise for the app. So we are going to make the Northcoders press. Every time you get a syntax error, you have to do 5 push-ups. This is going to work the chest muscles and the biceps. So this is going to post it to our database. Now we have to add the exercise to our workout sheet from here. So here we have a list of all of the exercises in our database. If you like one, you can pick it easy and add it to the workout. We are going to use the search feature now to search for the NC press that we just made and add it to our workout. We will then see the effect of these 2 exercises on our body. So here we have, since we added a chest exercise and a back exercise, the chest and the back have gone traffic light and turned yellow to indicate a low-medium workload. We're now going to add a few more exercises to show how the body can change. So now we're going to add another chest exercise and a bicep exercise. So, as you can see, we go traffic lights, it's gone to an orange to indicate a medium workload on the chest, the biceps, and the forearms. We're now going to add one last exercise. We want to get rid of all of the green on the body. We want everything to have a bit of work. So we've added a lower back exercise, and as it swivels around, you'll see the back is now getting a bit of work on it as well. So now we're ready to start our workout. So we're going to press the workout preview button to just look over our workout, make sure that everything we've got there is how we want it. If I really like the workout, I can click to save it. But for today, I'm just going to proceed forward and not save it and just start my workout. So now we're going to move on to the in-app companion, which you would plan to take to the gym with you. As you progress through your workout and tick individual exercises off, the model will light up in certain sections to indicate that these muscle groups have been worked. Once you finish your workout, you can then post your workout to your user page where you have a calendar where you can see all your previous workouts along with their names. So I exercised yesterday and the 29th, 28th, and so on. So that is our app CurlFriend. I'm now going to hand you over to Charlie, who is going to talk about the back-end experience with our app.
Thank you, Mike, for that great tech demo. I'm Charlie. I'm just going to take you through our back-end and what technology we used. So we used JavaScript in a Node.js runtime environment. We used Express and then MongoDB as well. We used Express as our standard server framework. We had a little look at Koa, which is a modular version of Express, but decided after thinking that it wasn't really any point just using the modules, so we might as well use the whole Express functionality. And then MongoDB as a NoSQL database, which is a bit of a paradigm shift from the SQL database we learned on the course, as it's schemaless. There are benefits to both. We found that the schemaless allowed us to be a lot more flexible. As a crowdsourced app, we expected to get a lot of data, and we didn't always know what form that data would take. And it also meant when we were adding data as we went through testing, it was a lot more hassle-free than having to rebuild tables over and over again. Our API was fairly standard. We had 13 endpoints with full CRUD operation available on the front end. So our front-end teams could develop that as we went along. Our development was completely test-driven. We used Mockachai and Postman throughout the process, and we also had a lot of commits and very, very detailed commit messages. So this meant later on in the process, when we did have, unfortunately, a few bugs, it was very easy to look through our commit history on Git and roll back to where we needed to be, which made the last few days fairly stress-free. We hosted our database on Heroku, and we did that very early to sort of follow with agile best practice. We thought it best to give our front-end team access to real data as quickly as possible. And another benefit of using Heroku was meant it was very easy to update our API as the app grew in complexity. So that's an overview of our back-end tech. I'm now going to pass on to Jake, who will take you through the front end. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Charlie. So yeah, for the front end, we used both React Native and Expo. We chose Expo as it did a lot of the configuration for the deployment of the app on cross-platform, so both on Android and iOS. We also chose React Native, primarily because we want it to be a mobile app, as Mike mentioned earlier, the companion piece even, to take to the gym with you. But also we had some familiarity with React, which we'd used on the course. So initially, we came quite smooth process using React, transitioned quite nicely. And previous cohorts have mentioned that they found some challenges with React Native. We quickly found those obstacles. Those obstacles particularly come in the form of navigation. But once we managed to figure out the process of that, and the app began to come together a lot more smoothly. There's also a lot of good documentation out there for React Native. There's a lot of other NPM packages you could bring in as well that work quite nicely with it. So once we had that up and running, and we started, and as the days went on, it became a lot more intuitive in the way we built our app. And as the product began to develop in front of us, that allowed us to then build the styling on top of this. As Charlie mentioned earlier, we did use Firebase. We used it for the authentication, which we then integrated with Facebook. And I'll tell you a little bit about our centerpiece, our 3D model. I'll hand you over to Mike.
So the main unique selling point of our app was this 3D rendered centerpiece model that goes right in the user's main page. It was really important for us to get this right. This was made in a framework called 3JS for JavaScript. We actually rendered both a male and a female model. You saw the male one on my profile, but there is also a female one you can see here. It was initially a bit of a challenge to get this working, mainly because it was hard with code to identify the exact areas that we wanted to change color. In the end, we had to think outside the box a little bit and ended up using a graphics program to do the graphics work, as opposed to trying to iterate over 70,000 data points of indices on each individual model. So we used a program called Blender to chop each model up. So in fact, you're not seeing one model, you are seeing 15 different pieces, which we drag into our program and then color each individual named piece. So now I'm going to hand you over to Natalie, who's going to talk about some of the challenges that we faced and the solutions that we found.
Thank you, Mike. So, as Mike said, we did face a few challenges over the last 2 weeks, but nothing we couldn't overcome, which was quite nice. So they can be broken down into two different sections, really. The first being our tech choices. So at the most basic level, we had a lot of different new technologies to get used to and not a lot of time to really delve deep into them and figure out whether they were actually what we needed before we committed to them. So we originally started building our backend before we made it in MongoDB with Firebase. We were very attracted to some of the quite swanky features that it gave, such as real-time data updates. But after we'd started building it, 2 days in, we thought we actually don't need these features, and a lot of it was a lot more difficult than we actually needed it to be for what we were making. So we swapped over. Another thing to do with the technology we chose, which was a bit difficult, was when we were choosing Expo, we didn't fully look into the things that came with it. So towards the end of the project, it restricted us in the different processes that we could use afterwards. So the thing with Expo is, whilst it takes away a lot of the configuration in terms of deploying it afterwards, it actually took away access to certain files that we needed to do authentication in a certain way that we'd learnt online. So we had to figure out a different way to do that. The other section of the challenges we face could be described as project management things. So there are things that we think we did pretty well. So we've followed some agile best practices. So we had stand-ups every morning and every afternoon where we talked about what we'd done previously, whether we had any blockers, and what we were going to do in the next few hours. We also created user stories to begin with, and we also, which you can see here, and a user journey map, which really helped us map out the different features of our app before we started. So they were really good things that we did to begin with. One thing that we think we could have improved on would have been we created a Trello board, but we didn't end up really using it very much. So we had a lot of different ways of tracking our progress through the 2 weeks, and it would have been good to have this in one area. So we should have really had a Kanban board. One other thing that we would have improved on if we were doing it again would be to design wireframes and our branding earlier on in the process. As it stands, we only started doing our styling and the aesthetic stuff towards the end of this week, so it felt a little bit rushed towards the end, and there are a few things we're not too happy with. But at the end of the day, we think it looks pretty good for something that we've made in 2 weeks with all new brand new technologies, and we're really proud of ourselves. So I think we did pretty well. That's it. Are there any questions? Here's a really cheesy slide for you.